You are not misunderstood. You are overexposed, and that is why you are weak in conversations. The greatest lie you were taught is that clarity earns respect, that honesty builds trust, that being open makes you powerful. Machiavelli knew better. Power is not granted to those who are understood. Power is conceded to those who cannot be read. The unreadable mind becomes a psychological shield. It absorbs pressure without revealing structure. It reflects curiosity without giving access. It forces others to guess. And when people guess, they project. When they project, they expose themselves. Right now, whether you admit it or not, people study you. They scan your words for leaks. They listen not to understand you, but to locate your position in the hierarchy. Every conversation is a quiet contest of dominance. You think you are exchanging ideas. They are measuring your certainty, your emotional volatility, your need for approval. Every unnecessary explanation you give is not generosity, it is a confession. Machiavelli understood that men fear what they cannot predict, not what is loud, not what is aggressive, but what refuses to reveal its next move. In courts, in alliances, in negotiations, the most dangerous individual was never the one who spoke the most. It was the one who listened, paused, and answered just enough to remain undefined. Undefined people do not get attacked directly. They get circled, and circling creates hesitation. Hesitation creates leverage. You were conditioned to fill silence, to clarify yourself, to correct misunderstandings immediately. This conditioning is not accidental. It trains you to surrender control of the frame. Silence is not empty. Silence is pressure, and the one who endures pressure without reacting becomes the dominant force in the interaction. Biologically, the human mind is wired to resolve uncertainty. An unresolved pattern causes tension. An unreadable person becomes a cognitive itch. The other person feels compelled to scratch it by talking more, explaining themselves, justifying their intentions. You say little, you learn everything. Predators do not announce themselves, prey does. Prey signals safety through noise, through reassurance, through emotional transparency. Predators remain still, they conserve energy, they observe movement. In conversation, stillness is dominance, reaction is submission. Understand this clearly. When you are immediately understood, you are immediately categorized. Once categorized, you are predictable. Once predictable, you are manageable. And once manageable, you are disposable. The unreadable individual resists categorization. They force others to continuously update their mental model. That constant recalibration drains psychological energy. Fatigue weakens judgment. Weak judgment concedes power. Most people leak their inner state through tone, speed, and emotional emphasis. They speak to be seen. They speak to be validated. They speak to relieve internal pressure. This makes them transparent. You must become opaque, not by lying. Lies require maintenance. Lies create stress. Stress leaks. Opaqueness comes from restraint, from saying less than expected, from responding without emotional symmetry, from refusing to mirror energy. Machiavelli warned that men reveal their intentions when they believe they are safe. Your task is not to appear threatening, it is to appear neutral. Neutrality disarms suspicion, but neutrality combined with selective silence creates unease. People cannot locate you. They cannot decide whether you are ally or obstacle. That ambiguity is your armor. Do not mistake this for passivity. The unreadable mind is not empty, it is disciplined. It chooses what not to express. It understands that every word is a negotiation, every reaction is a signal, every clarification is a concession. You are not here to be liked, you are here to be positioned above interference. There is danger here. If you attempt unreadability from insecurity, it becomes awkwardness. People sense fear, they exploit it. Unreadability must come from inner certainty, not from withdrawal. You are not hiding, you are withholding. You are not confused, you are controlled. This distinction is invisible to amateurs and obvious to those who matter. As you begin to strip your conversations down, you will feel discomfort. Silence will feel heavy. You will feel the urge to explain yourself, to soften edges, to restore social warmth. Resist it. That urge is your conditioning fighting extinction. Power always feels unnatural at first because you were trained for compliance, not dominance. This is only the surface. You have not yet learned how to weaponize pauses, how to bend perception without confrontation, how to make others chase clarity while you remain still. That comes next, and once you understand it, you will never speak the same way again.
Unreadability is not silence alone. Silence is merely the doorway. What follows is far more unsettling. It is the deliberate distortion of expectation. Once people realize you do not give easy access, they change tactics. They probe, they test, they attempt to pull reactions from you the way a hunter shakes a bush to see what moves inside. This is where most fail. They mistake unreadability as withdrawal, when in reality it is controlled engagement. You do not vanish from the conversation. You remain present, attentive, and precise, but you never give what is asked for directly. You answer without feeding. You respond without revealing. You speak without anchoring yourself. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. In conversation, they search for a rhythm: question, answer, emotion, echo, assertion, counter. When you disrupt this rhythm without breaking social rules, the mind stumbles, it loses footing, and when footing is lost, dominance shifts. Machiavelli understood that power is not exerted through force, but through confusion, carefully managed. If your responses are slightly delayed, slightly angled, slightly incomplete, others begin to overcompensate. They speak longer. They clarify themselves. They volunteer context you never requested. They reveal motives to stabilize the interaction. You say less. They give more. Notice how quickly people grow uncomfortable when their emotional energy is not mirrored. Enthusiasm unanswered becomes insecurity. Aggression unmet becomes embarrassment. Humor ignored becomes self-doubt. You are not rejecting them. You are simply not confirming their internal narrative. This creates psychological imbalance, and imbalance is leverage. Evolution wired us to read faces, tone, posture, and timing to assess threat. When signals conflict, the brain prioritizes caution. An unreadable individual sends mixed signals without appearing erratic. Calm tone, minimal expression, controlled pacing. The mind of the other person cannot decide whether you are harmless or dangerous, so it assumes potential risk. Respect follows fear, even when fear is subtle. Most people expose themselves by rushing to be understood. They clarify their intentions. They soften statements with explanations. They justify their opinions. This is submissive behavior disguised as politeness. It tells the listener that approval is being sought. The unreadable mind never seeks approval. It assumes legitimacy, and assumptions are contagious. There is a critical reframe you must accept. Conversations are not democratic exchanges. They are asymmetric evaluations. Someone is always being weighed more than the other. Someone is always revealing more than the other. If you believe conversations are about mutual understanding, you will always lose to those who understand this truth. You must train yourself to respond at a different depth than expected. When asked something personal, answer structurally, not emotionally. When challenged, respond conceptually, not defensively. When praised, accept without expansion. When criticized, acknowledge without resistance. Each of these choices denies the other person the reaction they anticipated. Anticipation broken becomes mental noise. This noise benefits you. While they recalibrate, you observe. You see who pushes harder. You see who retreats. You see who grows nervous and who grows aggressive. These reactions reveal rank orientation. They show you who needs control and who seeks alignment. You are no longer participating blindly. You are diagnosing. Machiavelli warned against revealing strength too early. The unreadable individual hides not weakness, but capability. When people cannot assess your limits, they approach cautiously. They negotiate softly. They test indirectly. This grants you time. Time is power. Time allows you to choose when to reveal, when to withdraw, when to strike, socially or strategically. But understand this clearly: unreadability is not coldness. Coldness repels. Unreadability attracts curiosity. You must remain composed, present, and minimally responsive. Your eyes listen. Your posture remains open. Your words are few but intentional. You are not intimidating. You are unplaceable. There is risk here as well. If you overdo this, you become alien. People disconnect. Influence requires proximity. Machiavelli never advocated isolation. He advocated selective access. You allow people close enough to feel engaged, but never close enough to feel in control. That boundary is invisible, and invisibility is its strength. Soon, people will begin to adjust themselves around you. They will choose words carefully. They will seek your approval without knowing why. They will feel watched even when you say nothing. This is the psychological shield forming, not loud, not aggressive, but undeniable. What you are learning now is still only preparation, because unreadability becomes truly dangerous when combined with timing, misdirection, and controlled revelation. And that is where this shifts from defense into dominance.
Unreadability reaches its true form when you control not only what you say, but when you say it. Timing is the invisible blade. Most people speak to relieve internal tension. You will speak to create it. This inversion alone separates those who react from those who rule. Human interaction is governed by rhythm. Whoever controls the rhythm controls the exchange. Fast responses signal eagerness. Immediate clarification signals insecurity. Delayed, measured replies signal self-possession. When your timing is unpredictable yet calm, others lose their internal metronome. They no longer know how to pace themselves around you. They adjust to you instead. Machiavelli understood that men fear delayed responses more than negative ones. A refusal gives closure. A delay breeds anxiety. Silence after a question is not emptiness, it is pressure accumulating. The mind fills silence with self-doubt. Did I offend? Did I miscalculate? Did I reveal too much? While they spiral inward, you remain still. Stillness amplifies authority. You must also understand misdirection. Unreadability is not about refusing to answer, it is about answering sideways. When asked directly, respond indirectly. When pressed for opinion, describe structure. When forced into personal ground, elevate to principle. This creates the illusion of depth while concealing position. People walk away feeling informed, yet knowing nothing useful about you. This works because the human mind confuses complexity with intelligence. It confuses abstraction with insight. By speaking in layered, non-committal language, you appear thoughtful without becoming traceable. You sound engaged without being anchored. Anchors can be pulled. Fog cannot. Another critical mechanism is emotional asymmetry. Never match intensity. If someone is excited, lower your energy slightly. If they are aggressive, remain neutral. If they are calm, you may lean in subtly. This constant imbalance forces the other person to chase equilibrium. Chasing is submission. Maintaining equilibrium is dominance. Evolutionarily, mammals assess rank through emotional control. The individual who remains composed during tension is perceived as higher status. This is not cultural, it is biological. Emotional volatility signals vulnerability. Emotional restraint signals strength. When you master restraint, people defer without understanding why. But restraint must be selective. Total emotional absence reads as emptiness. What you reveal should feel deliberate. Sparse reactions become valuable. When you finally express agreement, it carries weight. When you finally show disapproval, it stings. Scarcity creates value. This applies to words, emotions, and reactions. Machiavelli warned that revealing your true nature too early invites manipulation. Once people know what moves you, they move you.
The unreadable mind reveals nothing until leverage is secured. You allow others to believe they understand you. Let them. False certainty is their weakness. They will act based on assumptions. Assumptions are exploitable. This is where most misunderstand the danger. Unreadability does not make you invisible, it makes you a mirror. People see themselves reflected in your restraint. Their insecurities surface, their ambitions leak, their need for validation becomes obvious. You do not expose them, you let them expose themselves. There is a subtle shift that occurs when this skill matures. Conversations stop feeling social, they begin to feel diagnostic. You notice micro-reactions, changes in tone, sudden justifications, defensive laughter, over-explaining. Each signal is data. Each reaction reveals internal hierarchy positioning. You see who believes they outrank you and who fears they do not. At this stage, you must guard against arrogance. Arrogance leaks. It sharpens others. True unreadability feels effortless, calm, almost indifferent. You are not performing dominance, you are embodying it. Performance invites challenge, embodiment dissolves it. The greatest mistake is revealing this strategy. Power loses effectiveness when named. You do not teach unreadability, you practice it silently. Those who notice will respect you. Those who did not were never relevant. Machiavelli wrote for princes, not crowds. This knowledge is not democratic, it is selective by nature. As you continue, you will learn how to deploy unreadability offensively, how to unsettle without accusation, how to gain compliance without command, how to become the quiet center others orbit around. This is where the shield becomes a weapon.
Once unreadability becomes instinct, something subtle happens. You stop reacting to people. They begin reacting to you. The center of gravity shifts. You are no longer inside the conversation. The conversation forms around you. This is the point where the psychological shield turns inward. You are no longer protecting yourself from intrusion. You are protecting your internal structure from contamination. Most minds are porous. They absorb moods, opinions, urgency. This makes them manipulatable. The unreadable mind remains sealed. Calm is not a mood, it is a position. Machiavelli understood that influence flows toward emotional stability. People seek leaders not because leaders speak well, but because leaders appear unaffected. Unaffected by praise, unaffected by hostility, unaffected by chaos. When you remain unmoved, others subconsciously outsource certainty to you. They begin to wait for your reaction before choosing theirs. This is where dominance becomes quiet. You no longer need to assert. Your pauses assert for you. Your minimal reactions reframe the moment. If someone interrupts you and you do not rush to reclaim the floor, the interruption loses power. If someone challenges you and you do not defend, the challenge collapses under its own weight. Defense validates attack. Silence denies it oxygen. Understand this clearly. Many people provoke not to win, but to feel significant. When you refuse to emotionally register provocation, you deny them significance. This is devastating, more devastating than confrontation, because it suggests irrelevance. Unreadability also alters how truth functions. You no longer argue facts. Facts are cheap. Everyone has them. You allow others to state theirs. You absorb. You say little. When you finally speak, you reframe rather than rebut. Reframing controls meaning. Meaning controls memory. Memory controls reputation. Most reputations are destroyed not by attack, but by response, overreaction, justification, emotional leakage. The unreadable individual avoids all three. When attacked, they do not rush to repair perception. They let uncertainty linger. Uncertainty slows consensus. Slowed consensus protects position.
Machiavelli warned that men rush to judgment when information is abundant. When information is scarce, they hesitate. Your goal is not to dominate narratives loudly, it is to starve them quietly. Let others argue interpretations while you remain undefined. Undefined figures are harder to condemn. There is a predatory elegance to this. Predators do not chase constantly. They wait. They allow prey to exhaust itself. In conversation, exhaustion comes from emotional labor, explaining, defending, performing. You do none of it. Others do it for you. At this level, you must also master selective revelation. Total opacity breeds distrust. Strategic translucence builds influence. You reveal fragments, harmless truths, controlled vulnerabilities that cannot be leveraged. This creates the illusion of openness while protecting your core. People feel close to you without knowing you. This is ideal. Never reveal ambition. Ambition invites obstruction. Reveal contentment. Let others underestimate your hunger. Machiavelli understood that those who appear satisfied are granted freedom of movement. Those who appear hungry are watched. Hunger leaks through language, pacing, and urgency. Remove urgency. Urgency is the scent of need. As unreadability deepens, people will test harder. They will escalate emotionally. They will seek a crack. This is where discipline matters. One reactive moment can undo months of positioning. Power is fragile when flaunted, durable when invisible. You must remain boring under pressure, predictably calm, almost disappointing. This disappoints people because they expect drama. Drama is how control is negotiated in lower hierarchies. Higher hierarchies operate through absence, absence of reaction, absence of explanation, absence of need. Do not confuse this with detachment from reality. You are fully engaged. You simply do not externalize engagement. Your mind is active. Your face is still. This asymmetry unsettles people. They sense depth without access. Depth without access becomes authority. At this stage, conversations become tools rather than events. You enter them with intent. You leave them unchanged. Others leave altered, unsure, reflective, slightly off balance. You have not dominated them overtly. You have shifted their internal state. That is real power. What remains is the final inversion, how unreadability not only protects you and positions you, but makes others orbit you willingly. How silence becomes gravity, how restraint becomes command. This is the final layer, and it is not for everyone.
At the highest level, unreadability stops being something you do. It becomes something others experience around you. You no longer manage impressions, you shape gravity. People are drawn toward what feels solid and unknowable at the same time. Certainty without explanation, calm without reassurance. This combination triggers an ancient instinct. In unstable environments, humans align with what does not shake. You become that reference point, not because you claim it, but because you never need to. Machiavelli understood that authority emerges where resistance feels pointless, not because force is present, but because alternatives feel weaker. When you speak rarely, your words acquire density. When you react slowly, your reactions acquire meaning. When you remain unreadable, others begin to read themselves through you. This is the final inversion. You are no longer protecting your inner world from intrusion. You are allowing others to project theirs onto you. They assume your approval matters. They assume your judgment exists even when unspoken. They adjust behavior preemptively. This is command without command. At this stage, silence becomes instructional. A pause becomes correction. A neutral expression becomes feedback. You do not guide directly. You allow others to guide themselves in your presence. This creates loyalty without dependency and fear without hostility, the most stable form of control.
But this level demands something rare. You must let go of the need to be known. Most people secretly want recognition more than power. They want to be seen as intelligent, moral, or interesting. This desire leaks constantly. It ruins unreadability. If you still want credit, you will over-explain. If you still want validation, you will react. If you still want comfort, you will soften. Unreadability requires emotional self-sufficiency. You must be able to sit inside misunderstanding without correcting it. You must allow false assumptions to exist when correcting them offers no advantage. You must tolerate being underestimated. Underestimation is not an insult, it is camouflage. Machiavelli warned that those who reveal themselves prematurely invite containment. Once people think they understand you, they move to limit you. The unreadable individual remains unconcluded, always slightly ahead of interpretation, always just out of reach. This preserves freedom of movement. There is a warning here. This shield can isolate you if misused. If unreadability becomes contempt, people withdraw. If it becomes cruelty, they conspire. Balance is essential. You are not trying to dominate everyone. You are selecting who is allowed proximity. Most people do not need access to you. Some do. Those who earn it will sense depth without threat. True power does not announce itself. It does not argue. It does not perform. It waits. It watches. It chooses moments. When you finally act decisively, it feels inevitable. People comply not because they are forced, but because resistance feels irrational. This is why unreadability terrifies manipulators. They rely on reaction. They rely on emotional hooks. When nothing sticks, they lose leverage. They either retreat or expose themselves through escalation. Both outcomes benefit you. By now, you should feel a shift, a tightening of internal control, a willingness to say less, a comfort with pauses, a growing awareness that every conversation is an exchange of position, not just words. This awareness alone elevates you above most. Do not evangelize this. Do not explain it. Do not correct others' transparency. Let them talk. Let them reveal. Let them rush. You will not join them. You will remain measured, selective, unresolved. Unreadability is not a trick. It is a posture toward reality, a refusal to leak power, a commitment to internal order. Once established, it becomes effortless, and once effortless, it becomes permanent. If you have followed this far, you already know this is not for everyone. This is not entertainment. This is initiation. Those who seek clarity, dominance, and control will recognize what this channel offers and choose to align with it.